My name is Alec, and welcome to Nesus Devlog number 3. I know it's been a while since the last devlog, and I think I owe an explanation. This was my first year at university, and school began to overwhelm me, and I couldn't balance school and working on the game properly, so I decided to focus on school for the remainder of the school year. I've been out of school since early June, and I've been hard at work on the game ever since. Something that was sitting on the to-do list for a while was the completion of a new enemy. There were only 2 enemies in the game at that point, the Brute and the Sentinel. Unfortunately, I was having trouble coming up with a new enemy. How could I know what the enemy would look or act like if I didn't know what its environment would be? So, I decided to draw up the new environment, which will serve as one of the first areas the player will encounter. With this picture as inspiration, I got to work. I'm fairly new at pixel art, but I ended up with this. While drawing, I tried to think about where the light would be hitting the trees and from what angles, and I think I became better at it as I went along. It's a big learning experience for me. I only drew 2 layers, but in the game I simply duplicated the layers, offset them, and made them darker to create the illusion of a dense forest. Along with the background, I created a simple tile set to use when designing the Crimson Forest. On that same day, I created a short level to see how all the pieces of art work together, and I thought the result was quite nice. Now, for the whole reason I created the Crimson Forest, the enemy. I realize the priorities here seem backward, but now I know that I need to create the environments before trying to create enemies for those environments. So what monster should occupy a forest? A tree monster seemed like a good idea. So I took these few pictures as reference and looked at the level that I created. I decided to make the monster from the blue tree, so I pasted it into the image editor and came up with a mock-up for the tree monster. Honestly, I think it's some of my best work. Now, the hard part would be animating this thing. I bought some animation software a couple years ago called Spine, which is a bone animation program. It allows you to animate stuff by putting images onto bones and then rotating those bones. It makes for really smooth animation. I used it a couple years ago with pretty questionable results, but I wanted to give it another try. First, I separated the mock-up art into a bunch of individual body parts, being the head, shoulder, body, you name it. Then, after a quick refresher on Spine, I mapped the body parts to bones and got to animating. By following a simple walking animation guide, I was able to come up with a pretty convincing running animation. I did the idle and attack animations in a similar fashion, and implementing the new enemy was a cakewalk due to the enemy frameworks that I had set up in the months prior. All I really have to do is make an idle state, and a patrol state, then an aggressive state, and finally an attack state. In around 30 minutes, the tree monster was implemented and ready to go. It deals a heavy amount of damage in its strike, and it charges and attacks 3 times before taking a break. I'm thinking about adding some kind of attack where roots come out of the ground, but I'm keeping it simple for now. You may recall that in the previous video I wanted to host a combat demo, and I opened it up to all members of my Discord server. Even though it was a demo, I wanted to test it with my close friends first. Afterward, I would allow some Discord members to try it. So I created a quick demo level with a couple of enemies, gave a few copies of Nesus to my close friends, and they gave me a ton of feedback. When my friends played it, they said it felt terrible. Initially, I was a bit shocked because I thought it was decent. The player was slippery, inputs wouldn't register half of the time, and the dash attacks felt clunky and unusable. So I pushed update after update, making major and minor tweaks in accordance to what they were saying. I removed the player's acceleration and deceleration to make the movement tighter. I took the mouse out of the equation for the dash and made the direction of the dash dependent on what movement key you were pressing. I messed around with the basic attack combo and fixed a ton of input glitches. Slowly but surely, the combat began to feel better and better. Fun even. I also added some sounds in. Some were of my own creation, but others were plucked from online libraries. They aren't perfect, but there's something to fill in the space. Here's some gameplay from the combat demo. Finishing this game is something that I'm going to commit to in the coming months, so I think it's only fair to share what's ahead and how much progress we've made so far. So the level editor is complete. The combat demo is complete, and I'm currently working on the first section of the game, which is the Crimson Forest. This should be done in about mid-July to end July. The art's complete, the enemies are almost done, and I've made some progress on the level content. After the Crimson Forest is complete, there will be 7 more game sections that need to be completed, laid out in these following months. Then cutscenes and balancing will occur in January, and then there will be beta testing and the release in March or February. Now keep in mind this is a rather pessimistic roadmap. Not all areas will take a full month to complete, and some areas are short as some serve as transitions between larger areas. I have all of the areas planned out already, I just don't want to reveal them yet. I have confidence that the game can be released closer to January, though I think the phrase cautiously optimistic is relevant here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. Join the Discord and follow me on Twitter for frequent updates about the game.